All right, this is the second episode of my podcast, No Brainer, and this right here is Addison Fair. This is my old high school football coach. All right, how you doing, Coach?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, man. Can't complain. Can't complain. So, first of all, I want to ask you. It took a long time for you to get here.
No.
Yo, how long was the ride?
I was in Bladensburg today, so it only took me 20 minutes.
Because I remember you texted me. You said it was an hour away.
Yeah, so I live in Nanjemoy, Maryland. I got a farm down there now.
You got a farm?
Yes. I got a farm down there.
Listen, the crazy thing is, I've been talking about moving to Texas. Like, I want to get a ranch and stuff. So the fact that you have a farm is tough. So now I get to sit here and ask you about a farm real quick. So when you have a farm, right? Is there like certain things, like certain benefits and stuff you get for having a farm?
You know, where I live on the farm.
Right.
Okay, I have 4.9 acres, but I don't have any animals or anything of that nature. My neighbors, they have horses.
Right.
And I'm right in Nanjemoy, Maryland. Never heard of it. I've been in Maryland all my life.
And you said what, Maryland?
Nanjemoy, Maryland. It's in Charles County.
I have never heard of that. Charles County.
And I've never heard of it either, so I moved down there.
Right.
But my house sits right on the Potomac River. When I say on the Potomac River, I mean I can throw a rock from my backyard in the Potomac River.
Into the Potomac River. That's nice. I always have conversations with her about like what would you prefer, a mountain view or like water view and stuff. See, I always pick the water.
And it is the water view. I mean, that's what got me.
Right.
Because from my living room, I can sit and I have huge windows and double doors, and I can sit and just watch the water. So when I moved out there, I was skeptical. I always wanted something country, but I didn't want to be far away.
Right.
And best friend of mine, he was like, I said, well, it's far. He said, man, it's only far if you're walking. He says,
if you in a car, listen, an hour ride ain't that bad actually. Like,
yeah, I can get back and forth to work in 45 minutes.
For sure.
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
get up here to Bladensburg in less than an hour, so I'm used to it now. So
hey, that's not bad, man. So farm life, you say your neighbor got horses. So is this the same property? Is it still considered a farm?
It is.
Horses?
Well, it's called Riverside Ranch.
Right, Riverside Ranch.
Riverside Ranch is where we live. And they have the house that I bought was actually one of the son's houses.
Right.
And he got divorced. The wife got the house in a divorce. She sold it. So, hey, his tragedy is my benefit.
Hey,
so.
Facts, man. You take it and you run with it, man.
Yeah.
So, look, basically, I just want to explain to everybody, like how I know you and how you influence me, my circle of friends, and everybody that I play football with. So I actually met Coach. You came to Blade
2012.
my sophomore year actually. No, it was in middle. It was in between my sophomore and my junior year actually, because I remember the people that was about to leave. Kevin and all of them was getting ready to leave.
That was their senior year.
Yeah, that was their senior year exactly. So yeah, man, I just remember just having a certain mentality in playing football and basically going about things the wrong way, and out of all of our coaches, me and my best friend Tejan, we always say Coach Fair definitely changed our, our way of thinking, made us start thinking straight, focus on what's in front of you, and then you turn that stuff into other things. Like football was definitely a big part of my life and stuff, so when you came through and you was coaching us and you was telling us everything that you was telling us, the conversations we were having and stuff, man, that stuff was definitely a big impact on my life, a big impact on TJ life, and basically my whole circle, like Deshaun, all of us, so yeah, man, just a lot of stuff that we remember, Coach Fair was coaching the big boys and stuff, and I was a receiver, and I played defense corner, but I always wanted to go over there with y'all because y'all was putting in the real work,
Discipline was my biggest thing. Okay, and my background, I had 22 years in the Marine Corp. Right. And 22 years in the Marine Corps taught me to listen.
For sure.
Listen to my younger people, because sometimes, when you driving stuff on them and you're harping on them, you're not listening.
Right.
And I had my young people, when I was harping on one of my groups, and he was like, but staff's on, you're not listening. And so I learned, because I used to answer somebody's question before they finished it.
For sure.
So if they're having a conversation, they say, well, this is what I think. And I'm formulating the answer in my head before they finish what they have to say. And when my youngsters started telling me, that's the problem, you guys don't listen, So I sat down one day and had conversations with them, and I just listened.
Right.
And once I listened, I understood what they were saying.
Of course.
And just like with you young people, what I learned being in high school, a lot of parents, we don't listen. And a lot of things that y'all saying is true.
Right.
And then being around the high school, I got to look and I got to see it. I got to look and see how many teachers that didn't want you to succeed, how many people that didn't want you to succeed. And you guys were saying it, but nobody was believing it. So instead of just saying, okay, just go to class, this is what you're supposed to do, I started looking. I started thinking. And then I built a bond with every black male in the school. And I don't know, you guys don't know it, but in 2012, the black teachers that I met at Blade, the security guards, the administrators, except one, we made a pact that every time we see each other, we would shake each other's hands and give each other a hug.
Right.
And we did that every day. And what happened then is y'all started seeing us doing that, and y'all did it.
Yeah, for
y'all
sure.
started shaking hands. Every time y'all saw each other, y'all started shaking hands, y'all started greeting each other, and all that animosity just went out the window.
Definitely.
And it was only one person, one teacher we wouldn't do it with. And I'll say his name was Pulley.
Pulley?
Yes.
Who was Pulley?
Little short black teacher.
What subject he taught?
I think he taught like history or something like that. History. He was on the first floor.
First floor. The name sound familiar. I just can't put a name to it. But.
Yes, because I kept hearing it from the kids.
Right.
I kept hearing it from the kids. So I, from time to time, would just go sit in a class.
Right.
And I sat outside his class on a couple of occasions, and I witnessed what he was doing. And I witnessed how he was demeaning a young black man.
Right.
And I witnessed how he fabricated stuff on a young black man. And then he finally looked up one day, and when he was lying on one of the kids, I was standing there. I was like,
Got you,
bro.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? The crazy thing is that I'm at this age right now. I'm 26, so it's like I still remember all the stuff from school, and people don't really realize that a lot of teachers. I mean, teachers are just people. Teachers are just people, and teachers, they do. See, she's a teacher, so she's over there looking all crazy right now. But the thing is, teachers are people, just like police are people, and they formulate their own objectives on people. And as a kid, it's like you can only go with what they say for sometimes, and have to deal with the consequences and stuff. But
see, the teachers that I formulated, I got the closest with were the young ones,
right?
Because the young ones are still trying to change the world.
For sure.
They're trying to change the world. They're not complacent.
Right.
They think, okay, there's good in everybody.
Right.
It's the older ones that get set in their ways, and once they get tenure, they're like, hey, I'm going to get paid regardless.
Right.
And it takes being in a high school and then teaching an 8th grade class for once, I seen how stressful it is on the teacher.
Yeah.
Okay. And a lot of problems are with the parents and the communication.
Right.
Because first of all, the parents don't communicate with the teachers don't communicate with the parent, and the kid is the one in the middle.
Right.
So the kid is having a problem with the teacher, he can't relay it to the parent. And if the kid's having a problem with the parent, he can't relay it to the teacher.
Right.
Okay, so the kid is actually stuck with nobody to talk to.
Right.
Well, when I came in with you guys, I wasn't a parent or a teacher. I was somebody else you guys could talk to.
Right.
So, so I was coach. So you didn't have to cut corners.
Right.
So by the time you guys graduated, and by the time Aiden and Elijah came to the school, 90% of my parents and the kids that played, if something happened in school and the parent couldn't get there, they would call me.
Right.
And I would go speak to the teacher. Right. And I would have that parent-teacher conference in the place of the parent, because the parent trusted me and the teacher trusted me. Same time when the teacher couldn't call the parent, they called me,
because they know you're gonna get that message back.
He's gonna be, he's gonna be there. And so I spent so much time in Blade that I became ingrained in Blade.
Listen, the crazy thing is just like I said, like Coach Fair has such a big impact on the football team. Coach Fair wasn't even the head coach. It got to the point where we was walking around going like this. You already know what this means. Team Fair. If you went to Blade, when you see niggas go like this, that means it was Team Fair. Like the head coach didn't even like it. Like he started getting upset about it. Like, But for real, like Coach Fair, we it just a lot of things, man. Like it's situations we could be in games and stuff. Like I remember when we had our homecoming, and so my senior year, and when we were losing in halftime. Yeah, I came in there. It was just like, look, y'all better, you know what I'm saying? Y'all messing up and all this and that, blah, blah, blah. Coach Fair came in there, was just like, nah, you go in there, punch him in the face, and you handle business. We came out literally first play after homecoming. They kicked the ball off. We took it all the way back to the house. Touchdown, easy. Like we was hype, and we ended up going ham the rest of that game. Like just man, nobody brought more intensity on the field than Coach Fair.
Because it's one of the things I had to explain to the head coach at the time, and I was like, look, it's things that I can say to these young men that you can't say.
Definitely.
Okay, you can't say. Like he told one kid one time, the problem with you is you don't have a father figure. I was like, now. The kid started to go berserk. I was like, no, you come walk with me.
I remember that.
I said, you walk with me.
I know exactly who you're talking about,
and
too.
we talked, and I calmed him down. And then I went over to him, and I let him know, there's things that I can say that you can't say.
Yeah.
He said, well, I'm just as close as them as you are. I said, no, you're not. It's not about being close. It's about being who I am and who you are.
Yes.
Okay, you're barely 30 years old.
Yeah.
And you just had a child.
Right.
Okay, so you don't know how to handle a teenage child.
Right.
Okay, so you telling a young man that doesn't have a father figure that he needs one doesn't come out right from you.
Yeah.
Okay, and that was a wrong thing to say.
Right.
And he couldn't understand why it was wrong to say.
But you and I both know why he wouldn't understand. One, he wasn't from our community. He has no experience with our culture for real, like for the most part and stuff. But it's just. When you have people like that and you have people like you that witness it and you actually speak up, like that's a big deal because a lot of people witness things and they just mind their business.
Mind their business, let it go.
Definitely.
Let it go. But, with him, it's like, let me sit down and educate you, young man.
For sure, right.
Okay, because
he wasn't listening, like you said.
Yeah, he wasn't listening, but he got the picture. He got the message.
Right.
And I was like, I'll always call back to TJ. The incident he had with was it Deshaun?
Yeah.
No,
not Deshaun, but Jershon.
Well, they had that incident.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I looked at TJ. I said, so you were wrong. And he's like, well, no, coach, he's not being a team player. I said, did you know what that man said to him? And he's like, no. I said, the only thing you know is what that man told you.
Right.
Okay. So why don't you go to your teammate and find out what that man said to him to make him feel that way?
Right.
And when he came back and he told him, he's like, man,
change everything.
I said, because it took away from him being the bad guy, and he placed it on you.
And that happened a lot.
That
happened a lot where and Coach Fair made us all understand and made us all realize that we were playing a dangerous game of being told to hate your fellow teammate. Like it's crazy. Like that mentality had a lot of us beefing with each other, and in all actuality, it shouldn't have been like that. We know why.
that mentality kept you guys divided.
Definitely.
Okay, and it was designed to keep you guys divided because this certain individual had to prove a point where I can handle these type of people.
Right.
Therefore, I'm great. I'll be great up here.
Right.
Handling your type of people.
Exactly.
Okay. And one of the reasons that first year, I was ready to go.
Yeah.
I was ready to go because I didn't like what was going on. But one of my good friends, his name's Buddha, and Buddha is from my hometown. He joined the Marine Corps just like I did. Well, I joined the Marine Corps after he did, and he made sure I stayed in the Marine Corps.
Right.
He's one of those big brothers, and. I was coaching. I was like, well, Buddha, I'm going to bring my son down to your school. He said, that's all fine and good. I'll take him. He said, but if you leave these kids, who are they going to have?
Right.
And he said, think about that. It's more than just you, okay? It's more about those kids because if you leave these kids, they're going to be stuck in the same situation, and then they're going to believe all the time. Anytime we get somebody to believe in us, they leave.
Right. Yeah.
And he's like, it's just like, you're saying, the black father. Anytime the black father gets a little thing, he leaves us.
Right.
And then I learned that sometimes the black father left to save you.
Right.
And a lot of kids don't understand why. And I tell a lot of kids, instead of blaming that man, why don't you, when you're older, sit down, crack a beer, and ask the man a question. And sometimes he'll tell you the truth, and the truth might hurt you. It might hurt the person that birthed you.
Right.
So because sometimes they raise you, but they raise you from afar, and
Right.
they raise you from afar because they care more about you than to keep you in this turmoil.
Right.
And so, with you guys, it stopped being football.
Right.
Okay, stop being football. It started being, okay, let me turn these dudes around because somebody did it for me.
Right. That's deep right there. Mm-hmm. That's deep. Yeah, I need to have a sit down and conversation with my father. I ain't meet my father till, I said this on the last podcast, I ain't meet my father till maybe 2-3 years ago. I want to sit down with that man. Let's have a conversation. You know what I'm saying?
Sometimes it'll change your mind.
For sure.
Because only thing you know is what's on this side of the bottled water.
That's a fact.
All right. And sometimes, sometimes we'll sit back and just say, okay, son, because they don't want to upset you.
Right.
They still want to be in your life, but they don't want to upset you.
Right.
But sometimes, that truth hurt.
For sure.
That truth hurt. I know the man who was my father was in my life the whole time.
Right.
But it was toxic.
Right.
Okay, it was toxic. And I always looked at this man as my hero. But in my back of my mind, I knew what he was. I knew he was an abusive person.
Right.
He was abusive to my mother, to my sisters, to my brother, kind of me. And I didn't want to despise him. But later on, I did. And he was there the whole time.
Right, I get you.
Financially, he was fine. Took care of us financially. Mm-hmm. He made sure we had a roof over our head and all that other stuff. That was it. But the time, the energy, I was a great athlete.
Right.
This dude never seen me play one football game and a half of a basketball game. And I lived in his house.
Yeah.
I lived in his house. But some of my friends who didn't have their dads, and longed for their dads, and said, this dude was a piece of trash, he was this and that. When they met him later on, I'm like, well, I didn't know this.
Right.
I didn't know that. And I'm like, and I started learning things about my own dad. Mm-hmm. And I learned after he passed the reason why he was the way he is.
Right.
Because I have family that still don't even claim us.
Right.
Don't even claim us. I mean, they pretty much despise us because, my grandmother was a side piece.
Right. Yeah. That's when it gets deep right there.
It gets deep, and you don't know these type of things. Yeah. So that's where I called my surrogate father. Rufus opened my mind to a couple of things. He's like, look, man, your father wasn't conditioned to be a father.
Right.
He said, you were conditioned to be a dad. Right. This dude was conditioned to be a father, to show no affection, make sure as long as he took care of you financially, everything was good.
You talking about a different time. When was what year was your dad born?
My dad was born in 1942.
1942. That's a long time. Matter of fact, yeah, let's go back and dissect who you are actually. So, like, what year were you born?
I was born in 1963.
1963.
Washington, D.C.
You know what's crazy? My grandmother was born in 1963. No lie.
Yeah.
My grandmother was born in 1963. So was my football coach. Crazy. Okay, so 1963, you were born around here, right?
Born in Washington, D.C.
Born in Washington, D.C.
Washington Hospital Center. My uncle just recently told me, like, for the first 2 or 3 years of my life, I was in Orangeburg, South Carolina with him.
Yep.
And that's where I grew up. And then after that, we moved up here. My earliest remembrance, I can remember we lived in Southeast off of Knox Place.
Okay.
In Southeast. And then after that, before we moved to a house, we moved into my grandmother's house. It's 120 W Street, right up the street up here.
Okay.
Right around the corner
W
from Howard. Right around the corner from Howard University.
Okay.
And what's funny is this building is new, but my aunt lived right there on North Capitol Street.
Okay.
Right around the corner from here.
Right.
So when I came here, I already knew where to go.
Right.
So.
Did she live in Sursum Quarters or Tyler House?
I'm not sure what it's called, but it's right on It's right on North Capitol and New York, right at the corner of North Capitol and New York.
Yeah, that's Tyler House, the high-rise building, right?
Yes.
That's Tyler House.
Yes.
People that don't know, Tyler House is a hectic place, okay?
Yeah.
I heard it was a very hectic place back in the day. I heard this whole area was hectic. Sursum Quarters, what they call this Uptown back in the day or whatever.
Yeah, but that was in the late 70s, early 80s.
Right.
I'm talking late 60s, early 70s.
Difference.
And when the Tyler place over there, that was like the Jeffersons. When you moved up, that was the pinnacle.
Right.
When you back then, because we were like, my aunt's uppity because she lives
in Tyler House. You know,
we live on W Street.
It's another place called Marbury Plaza. I actually worked there at one point, and it's like ran down. But they was telling me how that place used to be the top place. Like that was the place all the celebrities that lived in DC would live in and stuff. I heard the same thing about Tyler House.
Yes, Tyler House. That was a prominent place back then. You know, and I remember there. I met he's my best friend today. His name is Lenny Fullwood. We met each other in kindergarten. We went to Mott Elementary School in Northwest. He moved away first, you know, and then we moved in 1972. We moved to Palmer Park.
Okay.
And I lived on Burnside, Palmer Park.
See, yeah.
And what I didn't know is my friend Isaac Lenny. Their family had moved to Palmer Park.
Right.
We didn't meet each other again, you know, catch up to each other in Palmer Park until junior high school.
Wow.
You know, and then we realized we went to elementary school together. We've been friends since kindergarten, and we're still friends today. That's my best friend in the world. So Palmer Park in 72, from 72 to 81 until I joined the Marine Corps, that was my place.
Was your home.
That's where I grew up.
See,
that's my roots. I'm a Palmer Park dude.
The crazy thing is,
as we say, Palmer Park.
Palmer Park. I lived in Palmer Park. I went to Kenmore. Okay, so I lived on Normandy.
Yeah, Normandy.
Yep.
That's on the other side.
On the other side, I lived on Normandy. I went to Kentland. I mean, not to Kentland, to Palmer Kenmore Middle School. When I went to that school, that crap was hectic, man. But cool. Like Palmer Park was sweet, man, because it's just a big ass neighborhood. Like it's just a bunch of people and stuff, so it's sweet. But I just wanted to go back. So 1963, you were born. You said Washington Hospital. Okay, so first child, right?
No, actually, I'm not.
See, now I know what the deal is, but we just gonna go in order. We gonna end up to that point. So as far as you knew, off the back, you was firstborn, right?
As far as I knew. I have an older sister. My older sister Tammy was with us.
Right. Oh, she was with you?
Yeah, my older sister Tammy is with us. Okay, so my older sister Tammy is my mother's oldest child.
Okay.
And I'm the oldest boy.
Right.
Now I thought I was my father's oldest child. Yeah, but I found out later that I'm not.
I actually seen that in an interview that you found out after he passed.
After he passed, after my grandmother passed, really, that I had a sister in South Carolina who was actually older than I am.
Right.
And I'm like, so I'm not your oldest child. You mean to tell me that her name is Blondine, and he's been seeing her all his life?
Oh, so he's known about her.
He's known about her. You know, as a matter of fact, my grandmother sent him away here to live with my aunt because of my sister.
Wow.
So he's known about her all his life.
Right.
All her life. He never told us about her.
Right.
And he only told us about it after my grandmother passed.
Right.
And I'm like, man, what's the big deal? You know, what's the big deal? You know, so
that's the black man story, really. That's the crazy part. Like, I know so many, like my situation, like with me and my father, like, you know, like he has a bunch of kids outside of his family that he had, you know. So trust me, same thing, different story, man. It's just people coming up from them times is just, I don't know. I had something else going on, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so 1963, you said your mom had a daughter. You had an older sister, right?
Yeah, my older sister Tammy.
Okay.
The four of us grew up together. My sister Tammy, then my brother William, and my sister Cheryl.
Okay, so how far apart are these ages?
Okay, I'm a year and a half younger than my sister Tammy.
A year and a half. Okay.
I'm a year older than my brother.
Okay.
And my sister Cheryl is a year younger than my brother. So
Okay.
we're like stair-steppers.
Exactly. And this is all from your mom and your dad.
It's all from my sister,
Your
my
oldest
sister,
sister from
somebody else.
Got you.
So, but the three of us from mom and dad.
Okay.
And we all, the four of us, that was us.
Okay.
That was our group. And that's how we grew up. And that's the way, my brother passed in 2018.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, that was my best friend in the world. He passed in 2018, but I still have my two sisters.
Right.
And my younger sister, my younger sister keeps the family together.
Right.
She makes sure everybody's checked on, everybody's doing something, everybody's together. And she's been doing that ever since she was little.
Right. No, that's definitely nice, man. So, like you said, so basically your mom and your father had 3 kids all within basically like 4 years for the most part, 4 or 5 years tops. So when you so basically y'all all went to the same schools for the most part.
All went to the same schools.
Nice. So you went to elementary school in D.C. actually.
I went to elementary in D.C. first, Lucretia Mott.
Okay.
I went there first, second, and I think a little bit of third grade. And then when we moved to Palmer Park, we went to a school called William Paker.
Okay.
That's on you on Normandy, we call that the other side because y'all have Matthew Henson on your side.
Right, Matthew Henson is at the top of the hill from
Normandy. And we have William Paker.
Right, okay.
And then in the corner of Palmer Park, you have Palmer Park Elementary. So it's actually 3 elementary schools in Palmer Park.
Oh, wow.
So we went to William Paker. And then I think it was 1973, 74 is when busing came in. And that's when they took us from Palmer Park and they sent it to school in New Carrollton and sent the New Carrollton kids to school over here. So they made every school system 50-50. The high schools, the middle schools. Well, we had junior high schools then. We didn't have middle school because if you went to Kenmore, we had Kent Kent Junior High School. And the amazing thing, where Palmer Park Police Station is, right?
Yep, I do.
Well, that's Kent Junior. That's my high school, junior high school.
Oh, the actual police department?
The police department is actually my junior high school. Wow. So that's where we went to junior high school. So when they made that in a mix, it made all the schools 50-50.
So you're saying 50-50, like 50
half
residents?
Black, half white.
Oh, half black and half white, really?
Half black, half white.
Wow.
That's when there were really no Latinos around.
Well, in that area, I'm sure.
Not in this area.
And what year is this?
This is like 70, I want to say 73, 74.
1973, 74. So 73, 70, you're about 10 years old.
I'm about 10 years old.
So this is around 5th grade. And your sister, she's in the 6th grade at this time?
Yep, my sister, I was in the, as a matter of fact, I was in the 5th grade.
Okay.
Yes, my sister was in the 6th grade, and my younger two were like 3rd and 4th.
So it was just
all of us in school together.
That's sweet right there. I wish my siblings my little brother's 10 years younger than me, and my sister's 15 years younger than me. They look at me like I'm an adult. Yeah. That's not the same. So I know you said you was in South Carolina. So what part of South Carolina again?
Orangeburg, South Carolina, where South Carolina State University is.
Okay, so like what type of South Carolina is this? Is this like country South Carolina?
This is.
Where is it near?
It's near Columbia. It's near the capital.
Okay.
Okay, but the most prominent thing down there in South Carolina was South Carolina State University, Wilkerson High School, and Claflin College.
Okay.
I think Claflin back then was an all-girls school.
Okay.
And so you had South Carolina State, which is a HBCU. You had Claflin, and then you had their high school, real small community. All black, and then where Columbia is close to Columbia. I think about 40, 50 miles away from state capital.
Okay.
Where people go to USC, University of South Carolina. People know you. As a matter of fact, they just won the Celebration Bowl against Deion team.
Okay.
This year.
Got you.
So,
see, I spent some time in North Carolina and South Carolina. More time in North Carolina, but when I was in South Carolina, I was in somewhere called Summerville.
Summerville.
Yeah, you ever heard of that?
Yes.
Summerville is just it's nothing out there. I mean, like it's kind of suburban, kind of in relation to out here, like more so. I would compare it to what's that place called? Waldorf, kind of sort of. Everything's so spread out.
I'll put it this way: where I live, where I live right now, Waldorf is a major city to where I live.
To that farm you live right now.
Yeah. So once you turn off 210, and you go up to 425 trying to get to my house. There are no street lights.
Wow, that's crazy. Just straight road.
Just straight road.
How far are you from your neighbors?
Well, my neighbor, I got the neighbor ranch
right
here. That's right next to me. But other than that, the next neighbor, It's about 400 to 500 through the woods. You can't see his house from mine.
Right.
I'll give you for instance, from the hard road to my house, or from my mailbox to my house is a mile.
Wow. A mile. So yeah, you're not checking that mail without your car.
I check the mail on my way in, or I check it on my way out.
No, that's a hike, a mile. See, that's the type of living I want to do. Like, I want to move somewhere where I am far from everybody. I like guns, so I want to go somewhere where I can tear stuff up, dig stuff, blow stuff up.
Yeah,
you know, so
I can do that.
See,
I had I got used to using the DoorDash app, for my groceries and stuff, and I put in to see if Amazon would deliver groceries to my house, and they were like, no.
They said, you too off the grid, man. They're going to send them delivery men up there, and they never going to come back, and they're going to get lost, something else, driving to you said Potomac, right?
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, you ever swam in the Potomac?
Oh, yeah.
You have?
Yeah.
Man, the Potomac is a little sketchy. No, Anacostia is sketchy.
Anacostia is part of the Potomac.
Yeah, like Anacostia flows into the Potomac.
Yes.
Yeah, see.
So you can actually, if you took a boat, you can go from Anacostia and take that boat all the way down to my house.
Easy. Yeah, see, I need a boat. We gotta get a boat, boo.
So you can actually see Virginia across the water from where I live.
Right. Okay, so 1973, man. Like, what is the climate like of United States at this time? Like, what is it like to be a black man that's 10 years old in 1973?
It was beautiful. Being a black kid in Palmer Park was beautiful. Nobody, we weren't rich,
right?
And we didn't act rich. We didn't know anything. All we knew is if anything happened, everybody was involved.
Right.
We had block parties, meaning that not even anything that's planned. Like, one of the neighbors to start barbecuing, and somebody will bring out a stereo, and somebody else will bring something out. Next thing you know, we block our own streets off,
right?
And we'd have a block party. Everybody on the street. I knew every dad from the top of the street to the bottom of the street.
Right.
I knew every mom from the top of the street to the bottom of the street. We were, even when my father left, we were surrounded. We had Miss Sheila over here, Miss Bryant over here, Miss Anderson here, and
still remember.
And Miss I forgot Miss E. I think it's Miss E. She was behind us, across the alley.
Okay.
We had a perimeter around us, and my mother didn't have to, because she worked. She was a single parent, but she didn't have to pay anybody because we were all there.
Right, and there was a lot of y'all.
And there was a lot of us. And then during the summer program, we go down to the rec. Yep. It was free. Nice. We were down from the rec. We had our own, Palmer Park had its own pool. We had our pool, a basketball court. The summer was free. You came down at 8 o'clock in the morning, got a little breakfast, you played your games, you was with your age group, we ate lunch, and then we had activities all day, or we were in the pool. Right. And then at 5 o'clock, when all the parents were coming home, we headed home.
Right.
And we all walked home. But it was free.
Right.
It was free. And everybody knew where you were.
And everybody knew where you were supposed to be.
We knew where we were supposed to be. We didn't have no
social media.
No social media, no cell phones, no nothing. But we all knew, we all had one curfew. And I know people laugh at it, but that one curfew was that street light.
I can relate to that, because when I was younger, see, this is the thing. I'm 26 years old. I'm right on the edge of all the social media. Like, all that stuff came out within our teenage, teenage, middle school times and stuff like that. So when I was in elementary school, same thing with my mother. I would ride my bike around the neighborhood. But when the street lights came on, that just meant that it's time to go home, and if I was out past that, it was an issue. So trust me, I definitely agree. I definitely can relate to that. But it's just like, when I speak to older people, especially around that time, like I spoke to somebody recently about like the 70s and stuff, and like a lot of parents had accountability for other neighbors' children and stuff too.
Yes, and one of the things I remember about my great-grandfather in the 60s, I never seen my great-grandfather in a pair of jeans.
Right.
He always wore slacks. He always wore a tie. He always had suspenders on. Never jeans.
So your great
My
grandfather.
great grandfather.
You know what year he was born?
I do not know. But I know when he passed, he was 89, and we were living in Palmer Park. But I remember when we lived on W Street, because my grandfather passed. I think I was the last grandchild that was born before my grandfather passed. But my great grandfather, which was my grandmother's father, I remember him being in the church, but I never saw him not with a dress shirt and slacks. And then I remember, even during that time, I don't remember my father ever being in jeans. Right. He always wore slacks. They always, they might have a similar like polo shirt and stuff like that. But all my uncles and stuff like that, when they walked out of the house, that's the way they walked out of the house.
Right.
They didn't have jeans on. They weren't scruffy. They might have a tie on. But that's the way men dressed.
Right.
And that's how prominent black men were back here.
You're talking about a different time.
Yeah, big different time. Yeah. And throughout the 70s, like my mother was part of Palmer Park Civics Association, and we had that. There was accountability. We had a little mayor. We had everything, and I don't remember anybody being poor.
Right.
In Palmer Park, if they were poor, we didn't know.
Right. Yeah, I was just living.
We were just living. And from 74 and coming all the way up into my junior high school days.
Right.
That's when my change started.
See, that's what I wanted to ask you. So just back to like 1963, you were 10, 11 years old. Was you playing sports already at this point?
No, I was playing, not in the 70s I started playing sports.
Okay.
We played baseball.
Okay.
We played football.
Okay, so what was your favorite, when you got to junior high school, like what junior high school you went to?
Kent.
Around that time, was you fully engaged in sports?
Fully engaged. I played football and baseball.
Well, which one of the two did you like the most?
Baseball.
Baseball.
Yeah, baseball. Now, basketball I was good at, but I didn't play on a basketball team.
Okay.
Basketball is something, I go down to the playground, I go down to the rec. The beauty of us is that we could have a full-out tournament.
Right. Street
against street. No adults.
Easy. Yeah.
No adults. So basketball was my thing, but I played organized. Excuse me. I played organized football and organized baseball.
Right.
I didn't get into organized basketball until I was 16.
Right.
And then I found that was the love of my life.
Right.
So moving up to that junior high school, the summer of 77 started my transformation. Okay. I got introduced to girls. Yeah. And I got introduced to a particular girl. And I became a teenage father.
Teenage dad at 14, right?
At 14.
At 14 years old. Okay, so around this time at 14, when you first, basically, you find out. So how did you find out? Like, she just came, you told you?
Excuse me.
No problem.
I came home from school one day. Well, let me back you up to the summer.
Okay. So what was summer? Give me the year.
The summer of 77.
77.
So summer of 77, when we started doing the thing, I got kind of cocky with it. I would sneak out of the house, go down the alley, sneak over her house, come on back.
Was this in the middle of the night?
Middle of the night.
I was scared to sneak out of my mother's house. My mother gonna watch this. Listen, I was scared to sneak out of my mama's house. But go ahead, Coach.
So, it's particular. I got so used to doing it, I got lazy with it. Now, we had a dog, a German Shepherd. German Shepherd.
Yeah.
Toby.
Toby.
So this particular time, I snuck out, and I left the door. I usually leave the door cracked so I can get in. But this time, I left it cracked so Toby can get in.
Okay.
This fool, not only did he come in the house, came in the house, went up the stairs, and went to my mother's room and woke my mother up. So after I finished doing my business, I came down, came to the house. My mother was waiting for me. Wasn't pretty. So fast forward 4 more months. I'm in junior high school. I'm in the 9th grade.
Okay. Wait, junior high? That's high school right there, right? That's not
back then. Wow. 7th, 8th, and 9th was junior high school. Okay. High school started at 10th grade.
10th grade. Okay, so it was only 3 years of high school.
It was only 3 years high school.
Okay.
So I come home and I'm walking up the street, and her mother was like, "I need to talk to you." And she only lived like 4 doors down from me.
Okay. This is in the middle of the night?
Excuse me. No, this was after I was coming home from school.
Okay, gotcha.
She didn't go to school that day.
Okay, gotcha.
I was coming home from school, and her mother seen me. She's like, "I need to talk to you." And her stepfather was there, and he had this look on his face. And I was like, "Oh, this
meeting.
ain't pretty.
This is a meeting now.
This ain't pretty."
Intervention.
So I go in there, and she's pregnant. And I'm like, "Who?" It's like, "She's pregnant." I'm like, oh my God.
At 14, I can only imagine.
I'm looking at him, her stepfather, because I'm waiting for this fist to come, you know, and getting flattened. But he's like, "Go on up there, tell your mother." So they live 4 houses down. That was the longest walk I ever had.
I bet it
And I'm
was.
dragging my feet, and I open the door, and my mother's standing there. And I didn't get to say nothing. My mother looked at my face and said, "She pregnant, ain't she?" And my whole face just dropped. My brother, till the day he died, would joke about the ass whooping my mother gave me.
He got beat.
Oh,
Man,
did
of course he got beat, man.
Oh, did I?
And this is, she already knew you was sneaking out at this point.
She don't know I've been sneaking out. And I mean, if you meet people who met my mother's the sweetest person in the world. But back then, my mother was only like 29.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and I was a fresh 29-year-old ass whooping.
Wait, so how old was your mom when she had you?
And my mom was 19.
Okay, she was 19 when she had you.
Yes,
Got you.
19. So she, at this point, she was like 29.
Right, yeah. So she
And
was full of energy.
She left-handed too, so every time I would lean, I would try to lean out to her. I was just leaning right into
it, of course.
And my brother still was like, "Man, mom was like swimming on you, dude." She looked like she was just doing a breaststroke, busting you down.
Okay, so around this time when you find out she's pregnant, like what is your household like at this point? Like who's living with you? Where are you living?
It's just my brothers and sisters, and I, and my mother.
Okay, so
my father was already gone.
Like when did your father leave?
My father left the year before.
The year before.
Yeah, he left the year before.
He went.
It was actually 2 years before. We actually left him.
Right.
You know, my mom was like, like I said, I have a strong mother.
Right.
And she wasn't only taking this stuff for so long. So she methodically moved everything out of our house. She got us an apartment.
Palmer Park?
Yeah, we moved out of Palmer Park. And she got us an apartment and methodically bought us clothes, furniture, bought a new car, got everything. And one day we came home from school. And I used to joke my father all the time about that. One day we came home from school, and our neighbor, Miss Anderson's like, "Y'all come over here." And we went over to Miss Anderson's house. Miss Anderson put us in a cab, took us out to Laurel. My mother had already disenrolled us from school into another school.
Quick with it.
And we had new clothes. Didn't pick up no clothes. No, we had new clothes already. Bedroom sets, everything. We just moved right into a whole nother place. And I still joke my mother. I was like, that was the smoothest move I've ever seen in my life.
You seen it coming, didn't you?
No.
You didn't see it coming?
None of us seen it coming.
You didn't think your mother was going to, like leave your father?
No. None of us seen it coming. And then when I moved in with my father, and we'll get into that, but when I used to joke him all the time, it's like, I said, when you got home, how long did it take you to figure out nobody was there?
Right.
So how many times you called for us to go get you a beer, change the TV before you realized
that nobody was in the house, and then everything is still there. It's like you wouldn't even know.
You wouldn't have known. And he was like, "Oh, you think that's funny?" I said, "No, that is funny." I said, "Tell me, how long were you sitting in the house before you realized nobody was there?" He said, "About 2 hours."
Right.
Yeah, because he usually get in there, ready, his food's there, bring my beer, give me the remote control.
Do what dads do. Do the dad thing. Okay, so 14, first child. Yeah, so was she your girlfriend?
Yeah, she was my girlfriend at the time.
She was your girlfriend. So, who was your first child? Your son, right?
Yes.
What's his name?
My oldest son's name is Addison.
Addison. Okay, so you're a junior.
Okay. No, he's the third, actually.
Oh, he's the third.
Yeah,
so
I'm
you're my mistake. Okay, so what is going through your brain? Like, what is going through your mind at this point? You 14 years old.
When I was 14, I have a child. Now, remember back then, drinking age was 18.
Okay.
Okay, so that's when I started drinking,
Mm-hmm.
smoking weed, the whole thing.
It's just because of the stress.
Because of the stress, I just, once I got out of ninth grade, and the 10th grade was just a blur.
Right.
I went to class, and I would skip class. I just didn't do anything.
Right.
The only class, ninth grade, it was, I was already halfway done, so I was an honor roll student.
Mm-hmm.
But that summer, and then when he was born, it was the age of 15 was like a whole blackout year.
Right.
That's when I met my coach.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked, after school, I worked on a work study program, and I worked at a place called Farrell's Restaurant in Landover Mall.
Right.
So I would do everything, trying to take care of a son, not knowing what I was doing.
Right.
And then it got out of hand. So that's when my mom sent me to live with my father.
That's what I was gonna get to. So after your mom left your father ended up. Did he move back to South Carolina, or
No, he stayed here.
He stayed here. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what it is. Okay, so he stayed here. Was he still in Palmer Park?
No, he moved out of the house, and we moved back into the house.
Right.
And he moved over here in Southeast.
Got you.
So he was off of Alabama Avenue in Southeast. Okay. And so the day my mother told me I had to go live with him, I was like, I'm not doing that.
Right.
So I got on a bus, and I came over to my grandmother's house here on W Street.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a big grandma's baby.
Of course.
And so,
who's going to tell your grandmother something?
Exactly.
None of your parents are going to go against your grandmom. It's just not happening.
And so
I don't mean to cut you off. Is this your mom's?
It's my mom's mom.
Mom's mom. Okay, Go ahead.
So I went over to my grandmother's house, and he came over there to get me. And he's like, boy, you better come on. And I had my head in my grandmother's lap. And I was like, Grandma, I don't want to go with him.
Right.
And she's like, well, if he don't want to go, he ain't got to go.
Mm-hmm.
He started, he got mad, but
Mm-hmm.
I knew one thing he wasn't going to do was defy my grandmother.
Of course not.
So my grandmother talked me into, she said, look, baby, let's go over there and try it. And said, if you don't like it, you can come back here. And so we had I went over there, and he and I had a corner table relationship. Okay. And that corner table was like, I would write a note at a corner of the table how much money I needed for school, and he would leave it there. So if I needed, $20 to get through the week, on the subway, I'd write him a note, and he put it there. That's how we communicated.
Wait, that's how y'all communicated?
Yes.
Like, I didn't, speak, face-to-face much? How come?
Because he didn't know me, I didn't know him, and I knew the things that he did to my mom, so I really didn't want to be around him.
But at this point, he had been there all the way up until 2 years prior to this, right?
Yes, but we didn't have a relationship.
Right.
He was just in the house.
Right, gotcha.
Everything that was done by my mom.
Right.
So when I lived there, it's like, okay, we're more or less roommates.
Yeah.
He would try to come and give me conversation like, it's like, well, son, if you're going to have sex with a woman, you need to wear a condom. I was like, I'm glad you said that. Could you hand me a pamper so I can change my son?
Yeah,
you're kind of late.
It's kind of late
on that. So he gave me the choice of I could go to Anacostia High School.
Or stay in Maryland.
I could stay in Maryland and go to school, but I had to get up. I got up every day at 5 o'clock in the morning to get to school at Parkdale.
Just to go back to Parkdale. So how come you didn't want to change schools?
Because it's DC schools.
Of course, you were high school. All your friends is
all
in
my
it.
friends, all my friends over there. And
Yeah.
It was Anacostia. Who wants to go to Anacostia? Yeah. So back during that day, it's like, who wants to go to Anacostia?
Right.
Nothing against the Anacostia alums. I just didn't want to go there.
Right.
So I was still doing the smoking, the drinking, and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And it was a day I was in the hallway right before basketball season. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know Mr. Davis.
Mr. Alfonso Davis.
Alfonso
right?
Davis.
Gotcha.
I didn't know he was the head basketball coach for JV.
Right, you didn't know. Okay.
And so I was in his class, first period.
Right. Wait, he was a teacher?
He was a teacher.
Gotcha.
He was my algebra teacher. Mm-hmm. And I would clown him every day. Just sit there and clown him. I didn't do no work. I didn't do anything. I just clowned him. Mm-hmm. And first day of basketball practice, I knew I was good because the guys who was on the basketball team, I've been dogging them for years.
Right.
So first day of basketball practice, there's 75 people in the gym. He walks in, and I look up, and he goes, "Hey, Mr. Fair." It's like, "Yes, sir." He's like, "Get out."
Yeah.
No basketball, no nothing. Just get out.
Yeah.
And so a couple of days later, he saw me in a hallway. And I was with my, I can say now, my baby's mother.
Mm-hmm.
And we were arguing. And I reached up to hit her. And he snatched me.
Right.
And at that point in time, he was the biggest man I ever seen in my life.
Right. You say he's like 6'3", something, 200 plus.
6'6", 260.
6'6", 260. That's a big man
Yeah,
right there.
that's a big man. And he snatched me off my feet. And when he snatched me off my feet, he's like, let's go. And I went, and he took me. I had a white counselor.
Mm-hmm.
Don't even remember his name. He said, you're no longer his counselor. He took me over to Miss Chambers.
Right.
And she's like, okay, we got him.
Right.
So he sat me down, and he talked to me. And he told me, I know you can play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to go play for Palmer Park Rec.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no, I'm not. He's like, yes, you are. And so I went and played for Palmer Park Rec. Mm-hmm. And then he set up some boundaries for me. When I came back my junior year, I couldn't wear tennis shoes to school.
Mm-hmm.
I wore slacks mostly.
Mm-hmm.
I wore shirt and tie on certain days, a suit on certain days.
And a briefcase.
And a briefcase.
Yep, I seen.
And that's what he told me. He said, when you're in school, it's all business.
Mm-hmm.
It's all business. And he's like, when you leave the campus, then you can have fun. He said, but while you here, it's business.
Okay.
And he changed my life. He changed my life. He started teaching me. He taught me that just because you have a child at 15, your life is not over.
Right.
You have to make that young man as proud of you as, you would want him to be.
For sure.
And he would do things I didn't even know. Like, after a basketball game, I was supposed to go home. And sometimes I went home. Sometimes I messed around. Mm-hmm. But I'd be like at a subway station 2 hours later than I was supposed to be, and he'd pull up, and it's Lincoln Continental, and be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm on my way home. He's like, you should have been home 2 hours ago. And I'm wondering, how do you even know I was here? But that's how much he had a thumb on me.
Right, he paid attention.
He paid attention to me. So senior year, boom, I went from a trashy kid to a prominent kid.
Right.
With his tutelage. And he taught me, it's not about you.
Right.
It's not always about you.
Yeah.
It's other people going through things too.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the way you act as a young man.
Right.
And he told me not to worry about college, and I didn't. He said, I'll put you in college, which he did. He chose a school that I went to. I chose a JUCO, and I went to the JUCO. And so here I am. I'm in college, balling, having a blast, doing what I'm supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And now the adult part comes in.
Right.
So in my sophomore year of college, I turned down, JUCO. I turned down a couple of D2 schools and D3 schools because I wanted to play another year at JUCO.
Right. See
if I can get somewhere better.
Right.
And I get a letter from the court saying to come home and deny or omit paternity of my son. Mm. And so let me back up a little bit. Once, after a while, my mother and her mother was like, concentrate on school.
Right.
Okay, concentrate on school. And so I concentrated on school. Grades got better. Everything got better. So now I get this letter. Got to go to court, which no big deal.
So like, well, what was it for? Was
it's just
something?
It's just because the court, since I was underage, the state gave her money,
of course,
for me until I was of age. Okay. Now I'm of age, so I had to go and deny or omit paternity. So my mother paid for me to come home.
Okay.
So I came home from college and went to court, and the judge, she was like, do you deny or omit paternity? And I'm holding my son. I was like, I admit paternity.
Right.
She said, and I remember her saying, she said, I'm glad you said that, son, because I'd hate to have to put you under the jail. That boy looks so much like you. It's pathetic.
Exactly.
So what she did is she told me, she extended things again. Since I'm in college, they can still keep getting state benefits until I finish college.
Right.
Once I finish college, 6 months later, then I'll pick up paying my child support.
For sure.
Okay. So now, all I needed to do was get sent back to school. Mm-hmm. My mother brought me down.
Right. So wait, where were you going to school at?
Garrett in Garrett County, Western Maryland.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, past Frostburg.
Oh, past Frostburg.
It's the last county in Maryland.
Is it up in the mountains like Frostburg? Or?
Way past Frostburg, higher in the mountains than Frostburg. Wow. There were 6 black kids in the county when I went to school.
And you were one of them.
I was one of them. There was 5 of us on the basketball team, 1 of us on the baseball team.
Wow.
Well, 7 if you include his one of the guys brought his girlfriend.
Right. So at this time, what you're 18, 19?
18 years old.
18, 19. Yeah. 18 years old. So just to go back, so finishing high school, you stayed with your father the entire time.
I stayed with my father the entire time.
Right, and then you graduated, and then Mr. Davis helped you get into school.
Yes, he guided me. He maneuvered me through the whole ordeal.
Right.
My father would, he would tell my father what schools I need to go visit. My father would take me to the schools.
Right.
The way I was recruited at St. Francis of Pennsylvania, a 4-year school, a D2 school. And I went there, and St. Francis is up in the mountains of Pennsylvania, just like Garrett County. All white Catholic school. And I went there with my father, and he took some woman with him, and I'm like, okay, with us. And I'm like, all right, dude. So we're up there, same scenario. All white. There was 1 black female on the campus. And guess what her job was that day?
What?
Escort me around. Okay, and so he's loving it. Because, one of the former Bullets used to go there, Kevin Porter, and he's like, yeah, my son's going to go to this school, and he really likes it. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not going to this school. Right. First, they told me I had to take 4 years of Catholic religion. We're Baptists.
Right.
And they told me I couldn't live in the dorms with the basketball players until I was a sophomore, and I couldn't leave campus, to go out in town until after the second semester, and I couldn't buy a car or drive a car until I was a sophomore. So I'm like,
I think they still do stuff like that for school stuff.
Yes, it's and it was a big time Catholic school, so I'm like, not gonna happen.
So like when you're there and you're one of very few black people there, like what was your interactions with like other students and stuff? Like, did you experience racism? Like, what year is this?
Oh, this is 1981.
1981. So like
when I first went to college.
What was your experiences like? Did you come in contact encounter any racism and stuff?
Only once walking to school.
Okay.
I was walking to school, and truck full of rednecks drove by me and yelled out nigger, and I'm like, okay. So I picked up a rock and I threw it at it. Threw it at the truck, and I hit the truck. They didn't turn around or anything. I wanted them to turn around. So from then on, when I would walk to school, and I just got there, so I didn't have any friends, so I had to walk to school, and it was about a mile.
Right.
So from then on, I used to walk to school. I used to have my book bag and rocks in my hand, just in case somebody, sideswiped me again.
For sure.
But after I got there, and we started practicing, everybody learned who I was. I had somebody come pick me up every day.
And you was playing basketball.
I was playing basketball.
Right. So at this time, Coach, you a big dude, man. So like at this time, how tall are you? Like
this time, I'm 6'3", 167 pounds.
167 pounds?
Yes.
Man, I'm 160 pounds right now. 6'3", 167 pounds. That means you were a twig.
I was a twig. I was 6'3", I was 167 pounds. And I was the last person recruited. So I didn't really get, any playing time when the season started. As a matter of fact, our first tournament, we won the tournament, and my trophy was a woman.
Wow.
I had a woman on the head of my trophy. It said men's basketball.
That's what they had to give you.
They gave it to me, and I took it home. My father took it. I was like, I don't want this.
I would have still. You see my trophies right there. I would still take that. I would say, hey, boop, this is mine.
And I did encounter that the biasness because I was the last person recruited.
Of course.
And we had an incident in practice. My roommate Bob went to Suitland. No, we both went to school down here in PG.
Right.
And we both got recruited up there.
Right.
And so we were roommates.
That's sweet.
And
another black guy.
Another black guy.
I'll take it.
And we had a black guy from New York, one from Ohio, and then we had one from Beckley, West Virginia, and one from Charleston, West Virginia. And so that was 6 of us. Yeah. And so I was the one that was last, recruited last.
Right.
And I had a Coach Gibson. When I first got there, he played semi-pro ball. and we were battling, and he elbowed me in the mouth. And I was like, he elbowed me in the mouth. I was like, look, watch it with the elbows. And he's like, stop being a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
So from then on, me and him battled every day. Every day. And we gathered a bond because we would fight and battle every day.
Right.
And I didn't get any playing time. And Coach Gibson was like, we would tell the head coach, you might want to give Fair some time. And the head coach was like, when it's time, then I'll give it to him. Well, we got into it, just talking regular smack, and my roommate told one of them, he's like, look, Tom, dude from Ohio, Tom 6'6".
Right.
He told Tom, hey, look, you think you good. Only reason why you play is because coach let you play. You're not better than Addison.
Right.
And so Bob, you're like your height, Bob always started shit. He said, well, play him then. So we played a 1-on-1, and I beat him.
Right.
And so then we did something else. We were trying to block each other's dunks, and I dunked on him. And at this point in time, he took the basketball, and he hit me in the back of the head with it. And
I want to be starting something.
and that's what happened. I came up. And see, one thing about dudes from Palmer Park, they don't talk a lot.
Right.
But when you put your hands on us,
that's just true PG County dudes in general. If you from true PG County, like District Heights, like Landover area, we're not going for that stuff. Don't try it.
So I came up swinging, and not only did I come up swinging, I dropped him, and I figured, okay, he a starter, I'm gonna get kicked off. So then I went after the rest of the team. Any other faggots want something?
Right.
Let's go now. And Coach Gibson went in the head coach's office laughing. He said, you might want to go out there and get your boy. He's like, who? It's like, Tom. Him and Addison got into it. He's like, what did Tom do to Addison? He's like, what did Tom do? You better go pick Tom up off the ground. And so when Coach came out, and I was like, if you want me to go fucking home, I'll go home, because I thought I was cut.
Right.
Yeah, that was the beginning of Fair Start. And
boom.
And that was it.
Okay, so what year? This is your sophomore year?
It's my freshman year.
Oh, your freshman year.
My freshman year.
Wow, that's sweet. So you basically punish somebody.
Ended up becoming six man to a starter to leading rebound on the team that year.
That's badass right there. So like this only starts to snowball effect into some other stuff at this point.
And it did, and that's when I started ascending.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now I'm in my sophomore year.
Okay,
and I'm still ascending. I'm climbing. I know I'm going to be. I know I'm at least make all conference, all this stuff.
Right.
And then, like I said, my mom had me come home. I admitted paternity.
Mm-hmm.
So this time I went back to my dad's house. I was like, okay, I need to get back to school.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to go see my girlfriend in Palmer Park.
Okay.
So we had a thing that if I needed a car, I always asked him, which one I could take, his, the Cadillac or the cab.
Mm-hmm.
And at this time, he had his girlfriend and her kids move in with us, which I didn't care. We had a house, and I was in college, so I didn't care.
Right.
And so I asked him if I could use a car, and he's like, yeah, but I'm not doing anything. So he's like, well, ask your mother if she need a car. And I was like, why should I ask my mother if she need a car? My mother lives in Palmer Park.
Right.
He's like, you know who I'm talking about. I was like, but she's not my mother. He's like, you're being disrespectful. And we got in this whole argument. And I just looked at her and said, Miss Harris, are you going anywhere? She was like, no, baby. So I grabbed the car. I said, well, did you ask Frances? That was her daughter. I said, why do I need to ask her to use your car?
Right.
And he's like, well, if you can't call them your mother and your sisters, then you don't need to, you don't need to be around here. And I was like, you know what? Got you. I left.
Wow.
So I need to get back to school.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew my mother couldn't afford it, so I would call him and ask him, it's like this whole mother thing. And I was like, she's not my mother. I'm 19 years old. She's not my mother.
Right.
And he refused to send me back to school. So I couldn't just stay at my mom's house and not do anything. So I walked from Palmer Park to PG Plaza.
Okay.
And that's where the recruiting office was for the Marine Corps.
Boom. So when is this?
This is 1982.
1982.
October 1982.
Your sophomore year.
My sophomore year.
You wanted to go back to school and continue playing basketball.
Yes.
But you was in a predicament. You got put basically in a corner and had to make a decision right then and there. Couldn't get back to school, so you went.
I went to join the Air Force.
Wow.
And I walked. Okay. I walked from Palmer Park to PG Plaza twice.
Okay.
And the Air Force recruiter wasn't there.
Okay.
And the third time I walked up there, Marine Corps recruiter was like, how many times are you going to keep coming up here till you find out this dude don't work?
Nice.
And he said, "Come in here and talk to me."
Okay.
And so, Stats on Dyer, never forget him. After talking to that dude for like 2 hours,
Mm-hmm.
when do I leave? He's like, "You got to take this test first."
Mm-hmm.
I took the ASVAB.
Vibe, yeah.
After I took the ASVAB, came home and told my mother and my girlfriend, I joined the Marine Corps. And he was like, "Yeah, okay." See, I was that dude who wouldn't join the selective service.
Uh-huh.
I was that dude who thought anybody joined the service only joined because they didn't have any education. They weren't
Right.
smart enough to go to college. I was that dude.
Right.
So when I told them I was joining the Marine Corps, they just like, "Yeah, okay."
And then you know that saying, they say that a black man don't have no business joining. I think it's the Army specifically,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
just military in general.
And they say black man ain't got no business in no man's army.
Yeah. So
And that was my mentality.
okay. So at this point, how old are you? 19, right?
I'm 19.
19 years old. What happens?
December 2nd rolls around,
Mm-hmm.
and I kept telling them, nobody believed me. But the night of December 2nd, when they seen that sedan pull up and had USMC on it, oh, that's when the tears start falling.
Oh, so they pulled up to come get you?
Yeah.
Wow. They said, "Hey, you enlisted.
Yeah. So
Get on this bus."
So I got on the bus, and they took me to the airport, and I flew down to South Carolina, and that was the beginning of my Marine Corps career.
Wow. So boom, you're in the Marine Corps. You said North Carolina?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. What part of South Carolina?
This is it's called Parris Island, South Carolina.
Okay, Paris Island, South Carolina.
It's a island that's surrounded by a swamp,
Right.
and so it's only one road in and one road out
Right.
when you join the Marine Corps, and that's Parris Island. West Coast Marines go to San Diego.
Okay.
So that was the beginning of my Marine Corps career, and I still had the opportunity after 4 years to go back to college and play basketball because I started playing basketball in the Marine Corps and damn good at it. So my college coach kept up with me,
Right.
and he let me know, "Hey, look, you can still have interest. People who want you to come to school." And it was natural. A lot of people went to join the service, then got out and either played football or basketball. So when my 4 years were coming up, he was like, "Hey, it's still teams interested in you."
Right.
But I was like, "Well, look, I'm playing basketball in the Marine Corps. I'm taking care of my son. They give me $14,000 to re-enlist, and I'm playing against some of my pros. I'm good."
That's nice. So just to go back, you made a decision to even go into the military just because you couldn't go back to school in time, basically.
Yes. And I had to, at the time, my son was like 4.
Okay.
So it's like you either going to start taking care of your son, get a job, or go back to school.
Right.
And he pretty much took the option away from me, going back to school.
Right.
So
You got put in the corner,
I got
basically.
put in the corner. So it was like, I'm not going to sit in my mother's house and do nothing.
Right.
And at that time, I'd sat around her house for like a month. And I was
Right.
like, I have no money. I have no job.
Right.
I'm not playing. I'm not studying.
Yeah, you just
Can't
taking
do
up
that.
air, taking up resources.
Taking up space.
So your first year in the Marine Corps, how was that?
The first year was great. Okay.
Like, what did y'all do?
So I fortunately could play basketball very well. And the first place I went to was a place called Camp Johnson for school. And that's when they found out I could play basketball.
Right.
And so I played ball just about every day. And we were there for school, and I learned to be a diesel mechanic. And so the guys I met there, it's like, okay, once you can play a sport in the Marine Corps is so small, it starts to travel.
Right.
And so I was only there for 4 months, and I got shipped off to Camp Pendleton, California.
Okay.
Okay, and the first thing I do is find a basketball court.
Okay. Yeah, are you still doing the diesel mechanic stuff?
Yes, because that was my normal job as a
Gotcha.
diesel mechanic. So in the military, it's a 9 to 5 job. 9 to 5 during the day. If you're not training, you're doing your job. My job was working on trucks.
Right.
And so got up to the gym, started playing ball. And I came up to the gym on a Saturday. And I was like, "Hey, what's going on here?" He was like, "That's the base team practicing." I was like, "Who can try out?" He said, "Well, ask the coach." And so the coach happened to be a young guy. And I was like, "Well, can I try out?" And he was like, "Yeah, you can try out." He said, "But you got to take somebody's spot that's over here." Okay. He was like, "You play ball before?" I said, "Well, I just love to play at JUCO."
Right.
And so he's like, "Okay, we'll give you a shot." So ran some ball that day, that afternoon. He's like, yo. Dude was like, what's up? He said, hey, yeah, go ahead and give homeboy your stuff.
Wow.
He's like, what? He's like, yeah, go ahead and give homeboy your stuff.
Just finessing your way through everything.
Hey, and that's the way it was, because in the Marine Corps is eat or be eaten.
Of course.
Eat or be eaten. And we all think we're cocky. We all think we're the strongest. We all think we're the best. And we all think we're the baddest thing ever on God's green earth.
You kind of got to.
Yeah. And so you constantly stayed in shape. You constantly work out. You constantly did things. And at this time, I went from 167 to like 201.
That's a big difference.
Yes. And the guys kept calling me skinny. So I introduced myself to the weight room. And that's when it started. That's when I started. And from then on, it was great. My first 4 or 5 years in the Marine Corps, 8 months out of the year I was playing basketball.
Right.
Yeah.
So like this time just starts flying, doesn't it? Like,
yes.
So are you in California how long were you in Cali?
I was in California for a year.
Okay.
Then I went from California to Okinawa, Japan.
Okay, so wow. You was in Japan. So in Japan, how old were you?
In Japan, I just turned 20.
Just turned 20 in Japan.
Just turned 20. So
on the base, of course.
Yes.
So like, did you learn any Japanese?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
I can understand it.
Right.
I can understand it, but I don't speak it fluently.
Right.
Now, one of my sons speaks it fluently.
Right.
And writes kanji.
Yeah, that's crazy. My man's Brooks, man. He's another person that I know that moved to Japan, came back to speak it, type it, all of that stuff. I'm actually gonna get him on here eventually. So, how long were you in Japan?
This first time I was in Japan, the first time a little under 2 years, about 18 months.
Okay.
I was over there. I was playing basketball. I was having fun. I was having a lot of fun.
Right.
The only thing that wasn't right was I didn't have my son with me.
Of course.
So I actually had a girlfriend over there who we were real tight, and was trying to figure out a way how to get my son.
You had a Japanese girlfriend?
No.
Oh, you're in Japan.
No, she was another Marine.
Okay, got you.
So we're trying to figure out a way to get him over there.
For sure.
And then I ended up having to choose between her and my son. And I chose to go back to the States and go pick my son.
Go pick your son.
Yeah. So he was the main force. He was the main drive of everything I did at that point in time.
So at this point, you were in the Marines for how many years?
I was in the Marine when I came back. I'd been in the Marine Corps 4 years, and I re-enlisted.
Okay, so when you came back, what year was this? You remember?
I came back in 1986.
1986.
And I came back to Cherry Point, North Carolina.
Oh, so you came back to North Carolina. Were your son was in North Carolina?
Yeah, that's when I gained custody of him.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I gained custody of him when he was 10 while I was in...
Full custody?
Yep.
Oh, that's nice, man.
Yeah, he's been with me ever since he was 10 years old. Yeah.
That's nice right there. So you go to North Carolina. How long you stay in North Carolina?
I stayed at that station from 86 to 89.
Oh, so wait, they gave you the option to come back to the United States and be on another base?
Yes. See, in the Marine Corps, you're gonna move every 3 years.
Okay, got you.
The longer you stay in, you move every 3 years.
Okay.
So I went from California to Okinawa, from Okinawa to Cherry Point.
Okay.
And then I got another set of orders to go back to Okinawa for a year.
Okay.
And in between that time, that's when I got married in 1988.
1988. Okay.
Yes, I got married in 1988, and my wife then, she had my daughter.
Okay.
So ended up being my daughter and my son. My daughter's, how old is she now? She's 36.
36 now.
And my oldest son is 43.
43. Man, listen, your oldest son is older than my mom. No lie. It's crazy. Yeah. So when you went back to Japan, you took everybody with you?
No, not on this trip.
Okay, gotcha.
When I went back to Japan, I went again by myself.
Okay.
Okay, so that's a 1 year tour. And so I was there in 89. And of course, what I do, play basketball again. And it's wild because the guys I played basketball with when I first came in, my best friend Clark from in the Marine Corps, you can see we started when we were 19 and 20. And every time you go back to Japan, you can see us grow up in the pictures, So I came back, 3 times. And you can actually see us from, 19 years old to 30-something years old, in the pictures playing basketball.
Right.
Yeah, so.
So like, what is the climate of the world around this time in 19? You said 1986, right?
Yes.
1986. So like, you're going from Japan to North Carolina. Like, what's going on in the world at this time? Like,
Well, that's the funny thing, because that's when the crack epidemic started, and I had no idea what it was.
right. So you came back.
I came back
Into
to
that.
it. No, I came back hearing about it. I never seen it.
Right.
I was on base, so I never saw it. So I didn't know what was going on. My whole life revolved around the Marine Corps base. So I would come home here to visit, but I would never be here longer than 10 days.
Right.
So any of that stuff never affected me.
Right.
And my friends, I had good friends. So when I came home, they would do things like, okay, give me the car keys.
Right.
And if we go out, they always drove. The ones that smoked, if they wanted to smoke, they would leave,
Right.
go do their thing, and come back. They would never do it around me because they knew I couldn't be around that stuff.
Right.
So I had very good friends, and the whole crack epidemic, I never knew anything about.
Right.
Even in '89, I think the first time I even saw or even thought about know what a crackhead was, I think it was like in '97.
Right. 97. Wow.
Yeah.
So this is
It never affected me.
right. Never affected you. Got you. So like, when you so how long were you in the Marines?
22 years.
22 years. Did you ever go into like any did you ever like deploy for battle or anything?
Yes,
Where?
I went to Bosnia, and then I went to Iraq.
Okay. Wow. So when did you go to you went to Bosnia first?
Yeah, I went to Bosnia first in 97, 98.
97, 98. Okay. So what was going on at this time?
At that time, it was a three-way war between the Bosniaks, the Serbs, and the Croatians, the Croats.
Right. Croatia, that's former Soviet Union.
Yes, no, former Yugoslavia.
Former Yugoslavia.
Yugoslavia, they were all one country.
Right. Okay.
So Serbia, Croatia, and Bosnia.
I don't know why I'm thinking of Ukraine.
Yeah.
Croatia is something different. Of
Yes.
course.
So
Okay.
it was all the former Yugoslavia, and
Okay.
then they split into their own countries. And part of our job is that we did what we call missions to see if it was safe enough for people to return home.
Right.
So I was part of what's called a refugee reconnaissance return team. So me and my team would go out and we would scout different Abstinas to see if it was safe for these people to come back home. So I did that, and then I did Iraq in 2004.
Right.
2004.
Wow.
2004.
That's so in Bosnia, did you had any type of encounters and stuff while you were there?
Pretty much. Yeah, we had stuff going on.
Okay.
So it was, you had your dangers, but you don't understand how dangerous things are until you come back home.
Right.
You don't understand how bad things were until you come back home, until you listen, how America describes things. And some of the things, like a lot of things I don't talk about, I don't get in debates about, because, a lot of people want to tell us why you were here for this and you were there for that. And I'm thinking to myself, if you weren't there beside me, don't give me your opinion.
That's a fact.
Don't give me your opinion. So in order to stay out of those type of arguments, I don't discuss it.
Right.
Because a lot of people they don't know when to stop.
Right.
They don't know when to stop, especially if they've never been there before, if they never did any service time, if they never put their boots on the ground.
Exactly.
So,
and not only that, if they weren't Marines too, because I've been told that you guys do things a little differently than everybody else.
It's a little bit
game.
different.
It's not a game. So I can only imagine what it was like being out there, like getting into any type of situations, which I sort of like where y'all out there in conjunction with other branches and stuff.
Yes, when I was out there in Bosnia, I served with NATO.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so we were the only 10 Marines there was only 10 Marines in our unit.
Okay.
But we were part of NATO.
Okay.
Now, when I went to Iraq, I served under an Army unit, the Big Red One, which
Gotcha.
I love that too. So those guys are on point too.
Right.
So the only thing that would upset me is when somebody would say something about the military that don't have family in it,
Right.
don't have, never been in it, and they would say something, that military ain't no place for a black man. And I was like, well, I'm black, and I'll go back and do it 3 times over. And I was one of those dudes.
Right.
I was one of those dudes until I joined.
Right.
It's a brotherhood that, excuse me, it's a brotherhood that you can't describe.
Right. I can only imagine. I mean, you go out there. I mean, it's just anything. It's like even like with football. Like I have a lot of people that I'm still close with from football because you go into battle with these people. You go into battle with them on your side. So I can only imagine when you going out somewhere, like especially to another country, and the only thing that you have in common with somebody next to you is that y'all American basically, and y'all somewhere that you probably wouldn't want to be, but you are because of a certain reason and stuff.
One of the things when I came back from Bosnia, what I wanted to do was just walk.
Mm-hmm.
Walk around without gear on, without a rifle.
Right.
And smell America.
Mm-hmm.
Because, man, some of these countries, it's like just the smell gets to you.
Right.
And then you can appreciate things when you come back here. Like 2 things I don't complain about. I don't complain about cold, and I don't complain about heat.
Mm-hmm.
Because over there, I was in 38 below.
What in Croatia?
In Bosnia.
Bosnia, yeah.
And in Iraq, I got up to 140.
Man,
so I don't complain about that.
Yeah, I could only imagine. So when you were in Bosnia, at this point you said your son and your daughter.
By the time I went to Bosnia, I had I was up to 4 children.
Up to 4 children.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's so Alden was born right as I went to Bosnia.
Wow. Okay.
Alden was born in 98.
Right. Okay. 98.
So that's when I went to Bosnia. Alden was born in 98.
Mm-hmm.
By that time, I had another son, Eris.
Mm-hmm.
Eris was born in 89.
Got you.
So it's like every time I went on deployment, I had a child.
Right.
So when I went to Okinawa, before I went to Okinawa, Eris was born. When I went to Bosnia, and then when the only one that came in between is Aiden. He came in.
Got you.
He came in doing 9/11.
Okay, so how long did you spend in Bosnia?
I spent 9 months in Bosnia.
9 months. So was it hectic?
It was pretty hectic.
It's pretty hectic. You got into some situations out there, didn't you?
Yeah, it's I'll say the most dangerous thing that I encountered was the driving at night.
Worse than Iraq?
Man, you drive on the side of cliffs, no lights.
Wow.
No street lights, and you can't use your headlights
because of your target at that point.
Yes, and then it's cold as hell, and it's snow, and there were no guardrails. So I don't care how many bullets I heard. That wasn't terrifying. Terrifying was getting down the bottom of that mountain,
tipping over. Yeah,
and and we had a Hummer, and the Hummer was just as big as the road. So if you were coming up the road and I was coming down the road, I wasn't turning around.
Right.
You're just gonna have to back all the way down.
Yeah, that Humvee.
Yeah, you're either gonna back all the way down, or I'm knocking you off the side of the cliff.
Right.
So that was the scariest thing.
Right.
And again, you don't realize what's scary until you get home.
Come back. You have to relive it. So would you say okay, no, first, before I even ask that, so after that, you said you ended up going to Iraq in 2004. So how long was you in Iraq?
I was in Iraq for about 8 months.
8 months?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, and is it the same situation? Was you getting into stuff out there?
Yeah.
Okay, so in Iraq, you was out there 8 months. So, what months of the year were you out there?
I was in there summer months, man.
Summer months. You said, how hot was it getting out there?
It was like 140, dude.
140, that is 140.
Just... sometimes, you have to rotate your guys because they get a little loopy and weary because of that heat. But you end up getting used to the heat,
Right.
Even when we came back to California, and it was 85 degrees in California. First thing everybody did was put on a coat.
Wow, because you were just that used to being so hot.
That used to being so hot. It was just cold, and it's 85 degrees outside.
Right.
But we got into some sticky situations. But again, you know, we have a different type of mentality. So, you know, when things happen, even though things happen, being a leader, I had to make sure, okay, even though things happen, I got to keep my boys calm.
For sure.
I got to keep them on track, and I got to make sure we accomplish what we came to accomplish.
And so when you were in Bosnia, were you ranked of some sort?
Yes.
Okay, what was your rank?
I was a staff sergeant.
Staff sergeant.
Yeah, that's what I retired as, and I was
Okay.
I was a team leader over there. So, excuse me, I was the I'll put it this way. I was like, you know, you have your colonel who runs the unit, and then I'm kind of like his vice president, but I'm on the enlisted side.
Right.
So, you know, I would always tell the colonel, hey, look, never make a decision without asking the enlisted person first, because officers are smart as I don't know, smart as all outdoors.
Right.
But the enlisted people are the ones who've been doing the work the whole time.
Right. Of course.
So, you know, what they do is they put together a plan and we execute the plan.
Right.
And so executing the plan over and over again, we have a little bit more insight than what they do. So when they're making a plan, you know, he always consults us. What do you think about this? What do you think about that?
Right.
You know, so that's why I learned, you know, I got that love for that bond. That's how Marines get their bond.
Right.
Because one of the dumb things, when an explosion happens, most people run from the explosion. We're stupid. We want run towards it.
Run towards it, man. You have to deal with it.
Yeah, we run towards it. So any normal person
Can't handle it.
can't. It's not can't handle it. You're not going to do that. But when you program to do it, you know, you just automatically do it. You just go.
Right.
You know, so
So like when you was in these situations and stuff, because I know like Marine training is already like hectic as you know what I'm saying as itself. So when you have any situations in Bosnia or Iraq, like did you witness any like any of your counterparts like can't handle it or like freak out or anything?
no, because as a leader, if you're calm, they're calm.
Right.
Your people are only going to act the way their leadership acts.
Right.
So if I'm sporadic and I'm panicky, they'd be panicky and sporadic.
Right.
So that's why I have this. I have a calm demeanor, but when you pop that powder keg, when it goes, it goes.
Right.
I mean, I'll be back, but when it goes, it goes.
Right.
So, like back here, there's not a situation. You know, being here at home, there's very few situations that I'm looking at, and I think, you know, it's okay. It's a dire thing. I'm like,
Right.
okay, might have a problem right here, but I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna get it done.
Right.
You know, and I always ask people, is anybody shooting at us? No. Any bombs going off? No. Is anybody dead? No. Then we can get through this.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
a fact, man.
we can get through it.
So what would you consider was worse, Iraq or Bosnia?
Actually, I was doing a job, so it wasn't. It's not really what was worse. The conditions were different.
Right.
You know, I'd rather be in the heat than in the cold.
Okay.
So the conditions were different, and the people you serve with were different. I'd rather, if I say it was a difference, I prefer Iraq because Iraq could serve with all Marines.
Right.
NATO, you have a lot of politics you have to deal with.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
so
you're dealing with international.
excuse me.
You're dealing with international government at that point, like, yeah. So
Our rules that we go by in the Marine Corps is not everybody else's rules. So you could actually walk into that NATO unit, and without even saying anything, you would know where the Marines were
right,
by just walking on the compound and looking at the vehicles.
right,
You look at the vehicles, you'll see a whole bunch of vehicles, and then all of a sudden you'll see vehicles with armor all and all this other stuff on it, in the snow, and it's like, how do you have armor all? Well, we didn't. We took like brake fluid
and rub it on
rub it on tires and everything, but you knew when you walked on, okay, they're the Marine Corps vehicles right there.
because y'all looking like pristine.
Oh yeah,
Good, good. That's sweet. Okay, so are you comfortable with talking like casualties and stuff like that?
No, I don't talk.
Yeah,
about
you don't
that
talk
stuff.
about stuff like that. Yeah, I figured. No, I was just gonna ask like if you had like just experiences like because it's war, you know, like if you had like experiences like losing people
I give it to you this way. I never had one of my Marines that I've taken.
Right.
I've only had one Marine who was Purple Heart recipient.
Right.
All my other missions, everybody's fine.
Right.
I am 100% disabled.
Okay.
All right, I'm 100% disabled for PTSD.
Right.
Okay, so I'll tell you this way. The only Marine soldier and sailor that want to talk about combat is the ones who didn't go to combat.
Right.
Okay. Other than that, it was a job you had to do. It was a job you came back from.
Right.
And my job, the hardest thing for me is when I leave to have these young women look at me and say, bring my husband home.
Right.
Or mom said, make sure my son comes back home.
Right.
The hardest thing for me to do ever was to knock on the door and tell somebody why their son's not here.
Right.
Because I remember I had to do it, and this one mother looked at me and she said, well, why are you here? I was like, well, ma'am, this happened to your son. She's like, no, that's not what I'm asking. If something happened to him, why are you here?
Right.
Why didn't anything happen to you? And
that gotta definitely have some type of effect on you. Like
oh man. And the thing is I didn't know her son.
Right.
I just had to report it.
Right.
And that's one of the duties people don't know we have to do. We actually go to the house.
Right.
If something happens. And that was the hardest thing I ever had to do.
Right.
Was to knock on that door. Because here we are, and Dress Blues, we're coming to the door, and before the door was open, I could hear her crying.
Right.
I could hear her crying, and I can hear, I could see the father breaking down. And so they knew it was coming. And it's hard. As a matter of fact, we had to go do in Berry Farms. And I had a captain that was with me, and he called me. He's like, Fair, hey, we got to go over to Berry Farms and deliver this news. And it was like 9 o'clock at night. I said, okay, that's fine, but we're not going at night.
Right.
And he's like, why? I said, it's Berry Farms. I said, we're not going at night. We're not going until the morning. And he said, why? I said, because in the morning, I can go get a 9mm out of the armory.
Okay.
All right,
go down there, right?
So go down there. We can go down there and we be strapped, because the last thing you want to do, I said, and I told him, I said, crackheads sleep during the day.
That's a fact.
They up all night.
Yep.
So if we go in there, go into this neighborhood, and one of these moms break down and start yelling, screaming, and crying, everybody's coming outside.
Everybody. You talking about the neighbors,
yes.
The guys across the street.
See, everybody's coming outside to see what's going on. I was like, so you got to know your environment.
Definitely.
And I did have one of my friends, Surreal, he went to a house, and while he was in the house telling the family, the father walked out of the house with a shotgun. Well, he had not a shotgun, he had a pistol, and started shooting up Surreal's car.
Wow. And
so he actually had to pull his, hey, drop it. But, we also understand.
Yeah. That impact has got to be just crushing. Like.
It's crazy. Out of all the things that you can go through, that is the hardest thing to do.
Right.
Is to go and tell somebody, and now that's why I feel for some of the police officers that have to go and knock on the door,
right,
and deliver that information. It's like, man, that's not easy.
Right.
It takes a special person, and that can get through this. And then not only do you get through it now you got to go home and you got to decompress.
Yeah, you do. Like, that's a load that you have to take off yourself too. Okay, so let me see. So 2004, you were in Iraq. So at this point, how many years is that?
At this point, I'd been in 20 years.
20 years.
And 2004. No, 2004. I've been in 21 years, and I was getting ready to retire in 2005.
Okay, so retirement's coming. How are you feeling?
Anxious.
Anxious? Are you anxious because you ready to finish, or you not truly finished? How you feel?
No, I wasn't finished at all.
You wasn't finished?
No. My oldest son, before I left for Iraq, before I go on a deployment, I forgot that my son grew up with me. So when he was 15, I was just 30.
Right.
So any deployments and stuff that I was going through, he always knew. I always told him. I had a list of things that I would tell him, okay, I would tell him, look, something happened to me, you can't grieve because you got to take care of A, B, C, and D.
Sure
and
do.
I went through that. And I gave him a floppy disk, and then I would give him instructions. This is what's got to be taken care of. So after you take care of all of this, then you can grieve.
So the floppy disk had stuff on it that he needed.
That he needed.
Gotcha.
But throughout these times, I didn't realize I was still talking to a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to a kid. And so by the time Iraq came around, and I was like, okay, I'm going on. I need to talk to you. And he's like, Dad, now I'm going to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you make it back this time, you got to get out. I said, what are you talking about? He said, you make it back this time, you got to get out. I'm tired of it. He said, I'm tired of this. He said, you have to get out.
Mm-hmm.
So I agreed. So when I came back, that year I came back, I started my retirement.
Mm-hmm. How was you feeling at that time?
I wasn't done.
But once you knew you was gonna retire, how did you feel? Like did you feel good? Did it feel like a load off, or you just still had that feeling like I'm not done?
Yeah, man, I'm still amped.
So what was it about? What was it about the Marines that had you so captivated? Like what was it? Like,
Because the brotherhood that you had,
right?
okay, and being prepared at all times,
Mm-hmm.
being called the world's finest fighting force, not America's, the world's finest fighting force.
Right.
When we stepped into a place, they knew who we were.
Right.
And when we stepped into a place, you can see people change their attitude.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter if it was here, if it was Bosnia, it was Iraq. Mm-hmm. No matter where when we stepped into a joint,
mm-hmm.
everybody's attitude changed.
Right.
And when you're on that type of elevation, that type of high all the time, and then I'm pushing you and you pushing me, and I'm pushing you and you pushing me, and it's a brotherhood and a sisterhood. Can't forget about them that you have, that you can look at another Marine and go, I know what's going on.
Yes,
I know what's
like
going on.
my older cousin is actually in the Marines, and everything you're saying right now is exactly what he says. Like he's always told me, and it's not even him, just most military people I've always come across just always just say the Marines are just y'all on a whole different spectrum, So yeah. Like I was saying, basically they just say like Marines and stuff. Yeah, y'all are just on a whole different spectrum. Y'all unity is on a whole different level because, for one, y'all go in, y'all deal with situations that a lot of people don't want to. Y'all there before everybody, and y'all leave after everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to ask you. So once you retired in 2005, right?
Yes.
Okay. So then after that, what do you do after that?
That's when I found my love for coaching.
Coaching football.
So what happened is I took at that time it was Alden.
Mm-hmm.
Alden was a little fat pudgy kid,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like 5. He wanted to play football.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, so I took him over to a place HMB to play football,
Mm-hmm.
and the coaching was just trash.
Right.
He was a fat kid, so their philosophy is the fat kids on the line,
Of course.
fast kids out here.
Uh-huh.
So he was a fat kid, so he was on the line. He played center and he played D tackle, but it didn't teach him anything.
Right.
And I learned from my oldest son being in high school, playing high school sports, because he was elite, and I coached him. But the high school coach told me, as long as you keep talking to your son, he'll be on the bench. But as soon as you shut up, he'll play. And when I shut up, I learned to play. So I learned not to interfere with coaches.
Right.
And so Alden played with his team for this first year, and I thought it was trash. I was like, well, let me go find some other place. Looking in the paper, and I see a guy, Andre Davis. He was somebody I went to high school with.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm going to take him down here. Got him down there. Alden's playing. Now, Aiden wants to play.
Right.
Okay, so I'm out there, and I'm out there every day. And then Andre's like, hey, why don't you help out? I said, man, I'm a basketball player. He said, fair. Coaching is coaching. If you can teach, you can teach.
That's a fact.
And so I started with Aiden's 6-year-old team, flag football.
Mm-hmm.
And we lost every game.
Mm-hmm.
But I was teaching them something different.
It's a learning lesson.
Yeah, I was teaching them something different. Mm-hmm. And the first year I got a lot of flack from the fathers because they just wanted to win football games. And I was teaching them to, all you had to do was grab one flag. But I wasn't teaching that. I was teaching them get in front and grab both flags.
Right. Statement.
And, so I had them going in front and grabbing both flags. So them doing that, we would lose a lot of games.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the fathers said something. He said, well, you don't know what you're doing. And I was like, no, actually, I do know what I'm doing. I said, look at these kids now. And they were sitting down, and they were eating, they were having fun, and I had a system that if I blew the whistle once, they would stop. If I blew the whistle 3 times, no matter where I am, they would run to me and drop to the knee.
Right.
And so
Structure.
structure.
For sure.
And they didn't get it until the next year when we put on pads.
Exactly.
Now
them two flag grabs. Tackle.
Is a tackle.
That is a tackle.
It's a tackle.
You're going down.
You're going down. And so they were like, "Oh, okay." And we made it to a tournament game. We still lost, but we made it to a tournament game, and we were playing a 7-under tournament game, and we were playing somebody that wasn't in our league.
Right.
And so the score was like the team we were playing had never been scored on, and never lost.
Right.
And so they didn't play a caliber team like us. So we came out, and we were going toe to toe, head to head, and we went in overtime, 4 overtimes, and I was like, "Hey, look, it's going on too long. Just give both teams trophies." And the other coach was competitive. He said, "No." He's like, "You can take second place, or we can keep playing." So I said, "Okay, we keep playing." And I had a rule that if you're a parent and you're on my team, a coaching staff, you can't coach your own kid.
Right.
And so Aiden was on my team, and this kid kept running around Aiden. He scored 4 touchdowns around Aiden's end, and I was like, "Aiden," and coach reminded me, he's like, "You can't coach your own kid." So he went over and talked to Aiden. So we're up by a touchdown. Kid came around the end like he usually do. Aiden squared up, dropped him. And that was my first championship. He looked at me, he's like, "Dad." And I looked at him, he screamed, and he jumped in my arms.
Good work.
That was my very first championship.
And this is what age level?
7.
7. That's sweet.
From then on, the next 4 years, I think we lost 4 games in 4 years.
Wow.
Including winning a national championship.
That's like Patriots right there.
Yeah. Big
that's
time.
Sweet.
We won the state 4 years in a row. We won a conference 4 years in a row. We lost the first year we went to the nationals, and we won the next year we went to the nationals.
That is sweet, man.
And guess who was my first kid to help me win the nationals?
Aiden?
No, Eli.
Eli?
Yes.
You talking about Rook?
No, not Rook. Eli.
Which Eli?
Young
Eli, little Eli.
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
Nah, brother. Then you got the whole squad, man. You got the squad right there. That's simple. Yeah. Nah, that's sweet. So, you know what's crazy? When I seen the pictures of them at Blade, like my brain just blew up because it's just like, man, I remember when they was just the tiniest, just running around, but they paid attention though. That's what I will say.
Paid attention to everything. That team was a team that we were grooming to come to Bladensburg.
Perfect.
Okay, so I coached them all the way up until it was time to come to high school.
Right.
And that's when somebody else decided, that it's time for Lester to go. And the kids were like, well, if he's not going to be here, we're not coming.
Wait, somebody decided that for...
Coach, you remember Coach Lester?
Coach Lester?
Yeah.
Oh, that was the coach after?
Yeah, coach after.
Okay,
so we came together. When he came there, he saw what we had.
Right.
Because I brought half of my kids were there when he first came there, and they were on JV.
Right.
The other half was coming.
Right.
And that year, in JV, we won 7 games.
Right.
So he's like, "Oh, we got something coming." I said, "No, the rest of them are on their way." And they're used to winning.
Right.
And they weren't used to losing.
Right.
And we got a new athletic director, and he wanted to go in a different direction.
Everything still good? What's going on? Storage? Okay, that's fine. Can you cut that one? Okay, can you just move that one? Just give me 1 second. All right, so I just want to get into something just real quick. Giving back to the community, okay? Giving back to the community is something I really like to do, okay? I actually just recently, for Christmas, gave out a bunch of toys, like monster trucks and stuff. So I have like a big lifted truck. So I was giving out, is that you?
Must be in my book bag.
We're going to take a little break here.
I know who it is. It's my lady.
She's like, where you at?
Hey, I'm in the middle of the podcast. All right. I knew she was gonna do it sooner or later.
Yeah, of course. Now we've been running for a little bit, so we're gonna wrap this up in a few. We got to get you back on, but before we do that, I just want to talk about giving back to the community. Like I was saying, I just I have like a lifted truck and stuff, so I gave out monster trucks and like dolls this past Christmas and stuff. So boom, it's crazy because when I sat there and I did my research, I come to find out that sir over here was the coordinator for the Toys for Tots, man.
Yes, I was from 1997 all the way up until 2005, and then I kept in touch with them, kept working with them all the way up to 2012.
Give back to the community. That is giving back to the community right there. Like Toys for Tots, and then also I also seen it's like Stay Warm or something.
Yeah,
he was giving out the coats and stuff to the homeless.
I work with lieutenant. Well, he was a lieutenant then with the fire department in Fairfax County.
Right. Nice.
And also work with the one of the lieutenants over here. He's a captain now in D.C. And we did a lot of community stuff together. That Toys for Tots, that was probably one of the greatest things I ever did in my life.
No, that's sweet, man. That's really nice, man. People don't realize, like, as a kid, especially with kids that don't have anything, like when you get stuff on, like were you doing Toys for Tots for Christmas and stuff, or was it just?
It's during the Christmas year.
Definitely.
During the Christmas season. We did the Toys for Tots during the Christmas season. Then I found out, I had Muslim kids, so I used to put the toys, set aside toys for after Christmas and take them to the mosque for Muslim children.
That's nice.
And then I had Three Kings Day for the Latino kids that was in the year. So I sectioned off. I had my Christians,
right.
I had my Muslims, and I had my Latinos. So I think Barry Farms. The thing we did with Barry Farms was the greatest. I worked for Interstate, a company called Interstate, and Interstate is a $100 million company, and it's right over here in Fairfax County.
Okay.
And they actually hired me as soon as I came out of the Marine Corps. And what we did, Interstate used to give toys out to the people in Barry Farms, and they used to let me rent their. They would give me trucks to store the toys in.
Right.
So I found out they were giving out toys on Christmas Eve. So I was like, well, I'm going to go with you. And I was like, how many families you have? And it was like roughly 200 families. So they usually gave out a toy or two. And I came back with, a bag of toy for each family.
For each family. Nice,
and we would give it out on Christmas Eve. And we went out there, and the background to Interstate, white owner, he grew up in Barry Farms.
Wow, nice.
He grew up in Barry Farms, but they owned everything. You know where Anacostia Metro Station is, right? They own that land from the bottom of Howard Road all the way to the top.
I used to work over there.
Yeah, to the top. So they own that land, and they actually lived in Barry Farms.
Okay.
And up until he passed and his mother passed, he would still go to that little same corner store and get his mother's lottery tickets.
Wow.
And these guys are multimillionaires.
Right.
So this particular time, he said, well, I have some people that work for me, that's kind of down, kind of doing bad. But they always help Toys for Tots. So I said, okay, I took them on base. And it was like 4 ladies. I took them on base. And it was like, what can we get? I said, go shopping.
Right.
And so they were picking a toy too. I said, ladies, go shopping. And I just started shoving stuff in their bags.
Right.
And they hired me. So I ended up working for them. And one of the ladies, walked by, and now I'm in a suit and tie. She walked by and she looked. And she said, sir, why do you look familiar? And I was like, I don't know. And then she came back crying. She said, you were the person that gave us all those toys.
Right.
And so in Barry Farms, I'm known as that dude who give out toys every year. Because, the brothers, what I did was, I didn't always give the toys to the families. Some of the brothers that would come up, and it's like, man, I didn't get my name on the list. So I'll bring the brothers over, and I give them the toys so they can give them to their kids in the morning. Because I know how it was. You want to do for your kids and you can't, and you don't want to ask for help. And I'm like, Come holler at me.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna give you this so you can put it under the tree in the morning so the kids have a tree. Have some under the tree.
And then they don't like a lot of men don't understand it's bigger than you, bro. This has nothing to do with you. It's for your kids.
It's
man.
for your kids. And then Mr. Morris said what he would do. Like I remember going to a house, and he said, "Young man, why are you home?" He said, "Well, I don't have a job." He said, "And why don't you have a job?" He said, "Well, sir, it's hard out here. I appreciate you doing this for my kids." So Mr. Morris, I gave him a card. He said, "If you show up Monday, you'll have a job." And the guy said, "What?" He said, "If you show up to this address, you'll have a job."
Right.
And the same thing he did with me. They came out one day to Barry Farms without me. And I get a phone call, "Hey, Fair, they're out there, but you're not there." And so we come over to Barry Farms, and this particular day, all my Marines had on jerseys. So we go out there, and it's a crowd. They mobbed.
Right.
And Mr. Morris says, trying to calm the crowd down. And I was like, I got up on the truck and said, "Let me get this, please." And he looked at me, and I was like, "This is what's going to happen." I said, "Make me a circle." My Marines, boom, made a circle. I said, "Kids over here, parents, see you. Don't want to see any parents. Okay? If you touch," and I looked at one brother, I said, "If anybody comes over here on your side," and looked at the other brother, "Anybody come over here on your side, I'll shut this down and we'll leave."
Right.
"Gotcha, big brother." So we started handing the stuff out to the kids. And Mr. Morris said, was like, "You're going to work for me." And I was like, "Okay." I really wasn't paying attention. And he's like, "No, you're going to work for me." And then the son came up later and said, "No, my dad wants you to work for us." I was like, "Doing what? I don't drive trucks." He's like, "He don't want you to drive trucks. He just wants you to work for him." The man offered me a job and didn't even have a position for me.
Wow.
So
That's just the power of being a great person, man.
hey, and I was just doing what I was trained to do.
Yeah, definitely.
And the best time we had out at Barry Farms, we had 150 bikes. And I took my Marines out and said, "Let's go." And I took a couple other, family members out. And we just, any kid that walked up, we gave him a bike.
Wow.
It was all the same color.
Can you imagine being a child that's popping up at home with a bike like, I just gave it to me. Like,
it's that dude, man.
Don't ask no questions. You know what I'm saying?
And so I was just that dude. And that's where Aiden, Alden, Eli, Isaiah, I would take them out every Christmas Eve.
Right.
And we knew Christmas Eve we're in Barry Farms giving out toys.
Right.
And that's and it gave the kids a sense of, not being so greedy.
Facts.
When they seen some other kids, when you give another kid something,
and they're thankful for it.
Yeah, and they're thankful for it. And it's like that. And for every kid that we took with us, when you see a kid give another kid a gift, and that kid all of a sudden understand, well, maybe I don't need this PS5.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe I could do something different.
Right.
And that was beautiful.
Yeah, that's definitely sweet, man. Give it back to the community, man. Everybody need to give back to the community in some sort of way, some type of way. But yeah, man. So you coach for Parkdale now.
Yes.
We'll never forgive you for that. So listen, this man is now banned for coaching the rival team. I went to BRAINER'S. We didn't bang with Parkdale. It's like, no, it wasn't that deep. It's just football stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but see, this is my alma mater.
Yeah.
I graduated from Parkdale.
For sure.
You should have heard the crap I got for coaching Bladensburg.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, hey, listen, you taught us a lot of stuff. But, yeah, man, we reached the time limit, man. We've definitely, you know what I'm saying, talked about a lot of stuff, but I still don't feel like it was enough time. So I'd love to have you back again if you want to come back. You could talk about some more stuff.
Anything, we just scratched the surface, man.
Man, of course. So I actually had a gift for you, but I left it in my truck. So what I'm gonna do is you be out here and stuff, right?
I still coach out here.
One of these days, I'm gonna hit you up, and then I'm gonna come drop my gift off for you. I have a Marine gift for you, right?
Okay.
And I meant to bring it, but I forgot it in the truck. So I'm gonna bring that to you one of these days this week, and we gotta get another day where we can come back in here because I wanna get you in here with maybe two or three guys from the football team. We could just come up in here and just talk and stuff, man.
It's cool. Anytime you want me in here, I'm in here.
Of course, man. I appreciate it, Coach, man. It's always a blessing to talk to you and everything. Every time I see you, we always got to stop and talk. I remember that time I seen you outside and it was freezing cold. We still sat there and talked for 30 minutes. So I definitely appreciate you, Coach. Like I said, man, you had a big influence on my life and how I try to be like what's the word, disciplined and stuff. know, and especially with the circle of friends that I have, definitely influenced a lot of us, man. I appreciate you coming through. This is the second episode of this podcast, Coach Fair. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, sir.
Hey, brother. All right, so that's it. We're going to get Coach Fair back, and that's the end of this episode. I appreciate it. We out.